What a way to start the week. I would say interesting conversation going on right there on Sunrise Daily. Well, let's do business. And today is going to be a bit special because we have 45 minutes instead of our usual 30 minutes. So you wonder why or what's special about it. Just stick on and you will not miss any of it. Good morning. Welcome to Sunrise Daily. Business morning on Sunrise Daily. I meant to say, I'm John Mekwa. Let's start from the global business. Oil prices rose in early trade on Monday as investors keep a lookout for signs of a rate cut cycle expected to begin as soon as September. Obviously, that's in the United States. We take a look or closer look now at the numbers for this morning. We see that it's green, 0.57%. For Brent at $83.10 a barrel. WTI of the United States is also up 0.52% at $80.55 a barrel. The U.S. Federal Reserve will next hold a Federal Open Market Committee, FOMC, meeting on July 30 and 31. And I mean, for Nigeria, it starts today. The MPC meeting starts today. Of course, we'll have the decision tomorrow, as which for the United States, investors expect the Fed to keep the rates unchanged while looking for any signal of a cut coming later on in the year. As we said earlier, September is when it's expected to start. On the political front, United States President Joe Biden abandoned his re-election bid on Sunday under pressure from fellow Democrats and endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris as the party's candidate to face Republican Donald Trump in November. A whole lot of change going on there. We've seen markets early trading reacting to that, especially in Asia. We know the sentiment around Mr. Trump there, what happens, his sentiment towards Asia. And then, of course, the concerns, his relationship with President Putin and what that could mean for Ukraine. It's a big picture that we see just taking shape right now. Now we're looking at the Naira and see they recorded another depreciation in spite of that huge intervention from the Central Bank of Nigeria last week on Thursday. They did about $20,000 to the BDCs. On Friday, it was to the official at a smaller rate. I can't remember the number now, but in spite of that, we did see that it's dropped. For the NAFEM, which is a major market there, opened at 1,566 Naira, 82 kobo, and then closed at 1,596 Naira, 92 kobo. That's a drop of almost 2%, worrying right there. NAFEX also, there was a drop of 0.86%. We know the central bank has explained these two, and people like Mr. Bismarck, who run your financial derivatives company, has said that it's seasonal. There's a lot of demand now for the dollar, and that's depreciating. Then I guess what it just begs is, at the end of the day, we need to reduce the need for the dollar or foreign currency. We had more of Nigerian-produced products, services, then there will be less demand for the dollar, more demand for the Naira, and then perhaps this would change. And so connected to that is Nigeria's FX reserve, which is supposed to help boost the value of the Naira. It has recorded another increase at the end of last week, hitting its highest level in 16 months. This is according to CBN data. Gross reserves increased by $557.7 million. It's now at $35.93 billion. That's what we closed the week with last week. And this rise is attributed to the disbursement of $750 million, which is the first tranche of the development policy financing from the World Bank. In the meantime, the central bank says foreign currencies worth $106.5 million were sold to authorized dealers on Thursday and Friday. Did say that earlier. So, of course, perhaps we'll expect more intervention from the central bank, you know, and that will help boost the currency, the value of the Naira. But as we always say, that's not really something to celebrate at this time. What we need is sustained value to the Naira. Now, a lot of conversations going on about the first half of the year as we start off and settle into the second half of the year. One of those to have contributed to that is Dr. Bola Adigo from Deloitte. She shares what she thinks can be done to make the second half of 2024 better than the first. Remember that the IMF just cut the growth forecast for 2024 for the country.
If the MPR increases further, and then the production process becomes more expensive, right? At the end of the day, those prices will be transferred to the end user or to the consumer. So I think in that regard, there is need to have a balance in that. Another thing is we need to address food crisis in the second half of the year, because statistics are nice, but the reality on ground is very important. You agree with me? So we need to address food crisis. Now, the steps the government is taking in, for example, suspending tariffs on certain grains, in bringing in some farming equipment, setting up a committee to address our food crisis, they are steps in the right direction. But I think another critical factor we need to do is address insecurity so that people can go back to their farms. And if people can go back to their farms, then we can be sure that our food production in the next season will be much higher. Now, the prices are reflective of demand and supply dynamics. When we have enough supply, prices naturally will crash to achieve an equilibrium. So I think in the next FY, while some of the programs, policies are in the right direction, we have to accelerate so that we ensure that we don't have a sluggish economy and the average Nigerian can start to feel the impact, both in their pocket and also at their.
So that's it, Dr. Adigode, sharing some tips. I mean, it's a general conversation that has been going on. We hope to continue on that, especially this week. Send some message and see if we can get the attention of those in authority, not just the federal, but also for states, so we get a better outcome in H2, the 3.3% of IMF. We can even do better than that if we put our minds to it and are intentional policies and implementation of those policies, I think, is what we should be emphasizing. And of course, we do have the policies, we do have them on paper and all of that. Now, let's talk a little bit about, well, most of the time when you talk about banking these days, you're talking about recapitalization, but Sterling Bank begs to be different. They're talking about health and their collaboration with the Lagos state government. It's Ilera Eco Boots. That's their focus this morning, where they are considering how to contribute to the welfare of Lagosians, especially this morning. We have joining us for this conversation the Divisional Head, Education and Health Sectors, Obinna Okachuku from Sterling Bank. Thank you so much, Mr. Okachuku. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
So you are interested in health. I thought you'd come on the program to discuss recapitalization. That seems to be what banks are looking at now, but we see you prefer to talk about health at this time. What's your interest with Ilera Eco?
We in Sterling Bank, we believe that the people we serve should be alive before we can actually serve them. So that's why health is actually a very important pillar of our strategy. We're partnering with Ilera Eco just because we're supporting the improvement of access to health and the quality of healthcare, and that's what the Ilera Eco Boots are about. It's about getting insurance, health insurance, closer to people and driving down the cost of healthcare generally.
Yeah, so how does it work? We know you do have boots and all of that. How does it work? Tell us more about this collaboration.
Yeah, so, generally, when we talk about healthcare and improving access to healthcare, people say telemedicine is an option. But the challenge is that many people don't have access to these devices that would enable them access telemedicine when they need it. So what the Ilera Eco Boots is about taking the hospitals in quote into where the informal sector comes together. So you see people leave their homes and go to the market. And when they fall sick, usually they prefer to self-medicate in the market, because if they leave their shops, they're not going to earn a living for that day. So we decided to bring up, with the Lagos state government, to bring in boots into the marketplaces, into the, the car parks, so that when these people fall sick, they can go into those booths and access healthcare via telemedicine. So it's just sort of simple, bringing telemedicine to the people where the people actually coalesce, where they converge. And that's what we're supporting them to do. We believe that when these services are in very close to the people, they will access it rather than self-medicate. They will access it rather than allow their healthcare to deteriorate. And because we're a business supporting or enabling institution, we think that people shouldn't have to make a choice between their health and their business like they do today. People that earn on a daily basis, when they're sick, they actually stay in their business for so long that they deteriorate to a point where, of course, they probably lose their lives or it becomes very difficult. So today we're saying you can take care of your business where you can take care of your health, where you actually take care of your business so that your health does not deteriorate further, giving you a higher cost of care.
Do we know where these booths are, and do people have to pay for it? Who are the personnel that operates the booths?
Oh, okay. So these booths are centrally located in markets across the local government areas and the local council development areas of Lagos State. We plan to roll out 300 of these booths. 5 of them have actually come alive, and others are coming alive in different areas. We've got health telemedicine partners. We've got pharmaceutical partners. We've got community health workers that will actually man these booths, enabling people to speak with a doctor or to get care when they need care. Now, to access the services in these booths, you need to be in an insurance plan. Now, I've always argued, and we've argued in Sterling, that the challenge with healthcare in Nigeria is not the infrastructure. We don't need to build more hospitals now. We don't necessarily need to build more primary healthcare centers. What we need to do is to fund people to be able to access care by buying insurance for them. So the social health insurance has to come alive, because if people have the ability to pay when they're sick, then that money would flow through the health chain and actually fund the infrastructure. So to be able to access this service, one needs to get on the ILERA Eco healthcare scheme. Of course, the policy on healthcare, current policy on healthcare, requires that everyone in the country and everyone in Lagos gets onto health insurance.
Mr. Kachiku,
with the health insurance.
All right, Mr. Kachiku, just hold your breath for a bit, because we really do need to see what you're talking about. We'll just take a short break. We'll be back. So just do hold on. You'll give us more details on, how people can reach it and how it works. So we'll just take a short break on the program, Mr. Kachiku, just a minute, and then we'll be back to continue this conversation. High cost of living marked the 2024 New Year celebration, a trend which started in May 2023 when President Bola Tinubu announced the removal of petrol subsidy and unification of foreign exchange rates. While these pronouncements have been applauded by international bodies, the consequences have been described as harsh on the people and the economy. Unfortunately, the trend persists through the first half of the year, with macroeconomic data capturing in some cases a worsening situation. For the Naira, it was tagged one of the worst performing globally in the first half, after losing about 40% to close at 1,510 Naira for a dollar. The bright side for Nigeria was the capital market. The stock exchange market recorded a return of over 33%, driven by renewed investors' confidence. For the fixed income market, investors enjoyed yield as high as 27.33% on treasury bills in March and 26.76% on bonds. This, however, means a ballooning debt for the federal government and a concern at the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industries mid-year review and outlook.
The debt has increased. Our labor productivity and factor productivity has flatlined. In other words, we are borrowing more than we are increasing our productivity.
Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria.
With a surging inflation at 34.19%, the Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank of Nigeria continued its hawkish stance, and monetary policy rate was raised to 26.25% at its May meeting. This made it about 750 basis point increase in the first half.
This is not something that is a one-size-fits-all and you'll expect, to continue like this. To the extent that the right policies are used, and obviously with the results we've seen, the right policies are being used, I believe that in the not too distant future, things will begin to moderate and interest rates will come down.
Falling Naira have meant bad for businesses. 5 multinationals have had to either divest or exit the country in the period.
A lot of the big IOCs, of course, are exiting Nigeria for their reasons, but they are not leaving Africa. In fact, let me put it that way. A lot of the IOCs are leaving the shallow and the land and going deep offshore in Nigeria, and also invest in other parts of Africa.
Attention then turns to the oil and gas sector, which remains the country's mainstay for revenue. At production hovered about 1.2 million barrels per day for the period, below the 1.5 million target. Crude availability was a topic towards the end of the first half, led by Dangote, as it promises PMS supply from August. Local refiners accuse international oil companies of jeopardizing their efforts towards energy security. The NMDPRA has intervened by asking the guidelines are published.
This guideline, it makes it clear. It makes it a willing seller, willing buyer scenario, and then also it makes it clear that both parties are free to deal with themselves. So it's not as if it's coming from the government equity; it's coming from the crude producers themselves. So yes, it will make supply of crude a lot easier.
There's never a pause in time or the running of the economy. So the second half of the year is already on, with high expectations from Nigerians following the intervention by the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission that international oil companies will publish a domestic crude supply obligation guidelines. And this may ensure crude supply to domestic refiners. There's also the newly agreed minimum wage of 70,000 Naira. On the other side, there's 150-day import-free policy on grains. There's a reform withholding tax policy for small businesses, implementation of AFCFTA, as well as expected activities from the newly created Ministry of Livestock Development. Then, governments may also need to turn attention to the debt stock, which according to the Debt Management Office has a portfolio for the public debt over 121 trillion Naira. A worrying fact, since for the first time in Nigeria, debt to GDP ratio has crossed the 50% level. People are still waiting also for the much-promised benefits of the economic reforms, which started with the President Bola Tinubu's administration. I'm Ini John Mekwa, reporting for Channels Television News. So there you have it. H2 is upon us. But I will just continue where we stopped. We still have Mr. Kachuku with us from Sterling Bank. Thank God we do have you on video now. I guess the break was a necessary one. So you were telling us before we took that break, Mr. Kachuku, on how people can participate, what are the requirements, and where they can actually access these booths, these health booths.
So, like I said earlier, thank you for having me back. The health booths will be distributed across 300 locations in Lagos State, across all Lagos Council development areas and the local government areas, in markets, selected markets, and motor parks. Now, to be able to access this, one needs to jump on the standard JARA plan, which was also launched, the National Health Plan. With that plan, you can actually access the care in these booths. And we've made it so simple that the plans can be paid for every month. I think it's as low as 1,200 or so. I'm not too sure currently. But we will also drill it down to the point where people can access this care by paying very little every day, maybe 50 Naira, 60 Naira every day, just because we need to make this accessible to everyone. And like I was saying earlier, the only way for us to get sustainable care in Nigeria and in Lagos and in Nigeria is to ensure that whatever we design in healthcare is directly connected to health insurance. Because without health insurance, there is absolutely no way to sustainable healthcare in the country. And that's what LASma is doing. That's what the Standard Jara plan is all about. That's what the ILERA Eco board is all about. It's saying if you have access to health insurance, then you can use these boats wherever you are. So we're trying to encourage people to get this health insurance. So you can get the health insurance from the boats. If you go into the boats, you can get online when you go on LASma website and on their partner websites. And we have made it so easy for everyone to be able to pay for it and to be able to afford it.
So this partnership, how long is it for? Is it something that you later hand over to the state government to handle, or what's the future plan for it?
So we're in this for the long haul. So long as Sterling Bank is alive, we will be partnering the government and different state governments on things like this. We believe that, you know, government changes every time. So 4 years, 8 years, you have government changes, but you've got the private sector standing all through. So we will continue to partner the government in this scheme. We are not leaving. We're not handing it over 100%. We'll keep bringing in all the private sector partners, like we're working with telehealth partners, we're working with pharmaceutical partners, we're working with community health partners to ensure that these boots are live and running. The government provides the policies, the government provides the social health insurance scheme, whilst we as a private sector, we bring in our own expertise. We also, as a financial institution, like I said earlier, make it easier for people to afford these plans by paying very little sums in line with what they earn. So we don't think we will ever decouple this union, because the union will require the union, the consortium, to make this, to keep this running sustainably. So we're in for the long haul.
Yeah, and it's not just this. I think you also have other projects, the contactless fair payment cards and all of that, apart from this health. Is that also in collaboration with the Lagos State government?
Yeah, yes, of course. So it's Sterling Bank, just to give you a bit background, our focus is on things that affect human beings, the real people: health, education, renewable energy, transport, and agriculture. So they're the main 5 pillars where we try to serve people. We believe that if we enable the lives of people that we're trying to bank, then banking can actually, one, be impactful and be a lot more sustainable. And that's why you see us partnering the government in both fair pay, in the LASra card. So with the LASra cards, we're the ones partnering the government, and we're making it available. We're supporting, because we believe that if the government needs to do social interventions, then it has to be sort of methodical. It has to be logical. You need to know the people. So the LASra ID cards help people to make payments and to receive benefits if they ever need to receive benefits from government. Same with transport. The card helps you with your transport. We've partnered in fair pay. We have done a lot with a lot of governments. I remember the first time we ever had a drone technology that distributes health consumables to hard-to-reach area. We were the partners with the providers supplying that. We actually signed. We were there at the commissioning in Kaduna State, and there are a lot of things we're doing in Bayelsa, in what's it called, in Cross River, in a lot of places, just trying to ensure that on health, energy, transport, food is available to the lowest set of cadre of society. And this is what we've been doing for a long time. I think it's just coming to fruition that people are beginning to see this. And we haven't started. We are just beginning, because we intend to partner every government, at whatever level, whether it's local, state, or federal, to ensure that these basic needs get to the people, whether it be health, whether it be education. In education, we've done a lot. I remember when I was talking to Oh, it wasn't you. When I was talking, we were talking about the education student loan schemes, and I said that Sterling Bank had already started giving students loans to study, and they graduate and they start paying. So it's something we've been putting our monies where our mouth is, and this is what we're all about.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Okachuku. Interesting there, Mr. Obinna Okachuku, Divisional Head, Education and Health Sectors. Thank you so much, and well done.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
All right, so we move to another corporate now, and it hasn't been all pleasant for Dangote Group in the last few days, from the issue of crude availability to the allegation of monopoly to the quality of the petroleum products. We'll clear the air on this and a whole lot more. But first, our correspondent Olu Phillips was at the refinery when the lawmakers visited.
And the beat goes on. Another high-profile visit to the world's largest single-train refinery complex, which also houses a fertilizer and petrochemical plant. Seeing is believing, they say. The tour is for members of Nigeria's legislative arm led by its Speaker Tajuddin Abbas. They caught glimpses perhaps of what have been talked about variously about the sheer size of this facility, sitting on over 2,300 hectares of reclaimed land, excluding the port area and the XPM line for importing crude and for exporting refined petroleum products.
So we cannot just bring and work the vessels. So we had to build this.
We didn't expect this visit to be a wild goose chase, with the inundating comments and spoken expectations about the refinery in the past weeks. Then this moment came. While being shown the world-class laboratory Dangote and his team have often boasted about, and the machine that elicited the next move is this one, the ED-XRF spectrophoto machine, which can process any petroleum products to determine the sulfur content. 2 random diesel samples were brought from 2 different fuel stations, and in what appears like a mini investigation, the parliamentarian requested to put this machine to use instantly. While that is ongoing, they dispatched some of their colleagues to go fetch randomly samples from the ones currently being refined in Dangote. All 3 passed through this machine.
So the analysis is starting now. It's a 5-minute analysis.
Like a clinical patient waiting for a medical result, we all post all activities. So what do we have here? The results showed that the sulfur content in the diesel from other stations were 2,631 and 1,829 respectively, higher than the allowed amount. The Dangote's results showed an 86.7 parts per million sulfur content in diesel. That's not all. Another test was quickly conducted in this same laboratory, this time to determine the flash point of the diesel sample collected.
Okay, so let's do that, because the other one we just passed through.
The flash point is the lowest temperature at which the application of an ignition source causes the vapor above the liquid to ignite. Again, the readings of 26 and 63 for the diesel from other stations fell short of the acceptable minimum of 66, and Dangote's did well above 75 degrees. The face of resilience has just thrown this challenge.
Maybe, Your Excellency, you can set up a team to be maybe headed by the chairman downstream and midstream, so that they will now come in, take our sample with their representative, with our own representative, and go to any filling station of 3 different companies, and you go now and they check in their own labs, and we will accept the result.
Surely, we'll do that, I promise you. Thank you.
So, we are Nigerians. We are a patriotic organization. Our diesel will be 10 ppm by next week. PMS will be ready by August 2024. Yes, we are dropping plans to venture into the steel business, so we are not labeled monopolists. We welcome independent investigation and more.
This is really very disheartening when people keep talking about all this monopoly. Monopoly, you know, is this only when you stop people, you block them through legal means or whatever. No, it's a, you know, level playing field where whatever Dangote was given, okay, in cement, for example, okay, you know, other people too were given. In the refinery, we did not, and I repeat, we did not collect one single incentive from the federal government of Nigeria or from even the Lagos state of Nigeria. Yes, Lagos state, maybe they gave us a good deal, but we paid $100 million for the land. It wasn't a free land. We paid for it. Okay, so people are always looking at the different, you know, other side. They are not really looking at the real picture. So just for the fact that, yes, we are ready and about to start this, you know, everybody is now up and about. Yes, but we know that what is giving us you know, a lot of joy is that we know that the majority of the population, they are with us.
These are some of the positions of the Africa's richest man. Olu Phillips, Channels Television News.
So it hasn't been very pleasant for Dangote Group. That's the CEO of the group there, Mr. Aliko Dangote. Well, let's see if we can clear the air on some of these issues. And right here in the studio is the Director, Group Chief Commercial Officer, Dangote Industries, here, Mr. Rabiu. Mr. Rabiu Umar, thank you so much and good morning.
Good morning, Yini. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's been so much attention on Dangote these past days, but unfortunately it hasn't been for good. First, we saw Dangote talk about the IOCs, which other refiners have also complained about. And then we now, of course, you've been importing, you've continued to do that. That's crude. And then now we now hear of the quality of your petroleum products, now the issue of monopoly and all of that. Tell us what's really going on. We did hear Ms. Aliko right there saying he has not, the company has not received any incentive from the government. Even the land in Lagos, they've had to pay $100 million and all of that. So what's really going on? What's the undertone?
Okay, thank you very much for that. I think I would like to start by, first of all, addressing the issue you raised regarding the supply of crude. We started operation earlier this year. And when we started, we were not getting crude oil from most of the IOCs. In fact, as a matter of fact, it took the intervention of the NMDPRA to come and bring out terms and conditions for the domestic supply. Because let's not forget, we produce crude oil in Nigeria, and then a lot of it is exported. And then what comes back is the refined products. So the NMDPRA had to set up a meeting to bring out guidelines on how domestic crude obligations will be met. And following from that, we're still waiting. It's a very good plan, but we're still waiting to see that the implementation of that takes effect. But because as we speak, we have not yet started seeing that. We got nothing for the month of August. And we're expecting for the next month 5 cargoes from NNPC, and we're going to have to import 10 cargoes from Brazil and the USA. So what that tells you is still we are more or less 60% reliant on importing the crude we're going to refine. That is to address the first point you made regarding what is happening regarding the crude oil. In terms of
the intervention of the NMDPRA, do you see that dealing with that challenge now? The IOC is publishing the guidelines, you know, for pricing and the terms for sales?
Like I said, time will tell, because as we speak, most of the companies that are producing crude have participated in a foreign tender in faraway Indonesia for Pertamina. So what doesn't make sense to us is, why would Nigerian crude be going to Indonesia and then a Nigerian company is going abroad to bring in the same product?
So is there no, I do know that, for instance, Nigeria has done a lot of crude loan for crude deal and all of that. Could that be the reason? Or do you think there are sentiments around this?
No, I mean, it's very clear. I don't think it's a question of commitments. It's more a question of an enabling environment. Because let's face it, you take out the crude and then we go and bring in the crude. To me, it doesn't make sense. Because let's not forget that Nigeria is supposed to have 445,000 barrels per day of domestic consumption, which is the nameplate capacity of our refineries. Meaning that if these refineries were working, there's no need to export the product. This is the product that is supposed to be used for refining, and then, of course, Nigerians will be the ones enjoying the product locally. But today, we are exporting most of this product anyway.
But, I mean, I do know that crude is globally priced. That means if Dangote is buying it, they pay at the global, they pay for it with the global price. If you're exporting it, it's the same thing. Do they make more gains exporting this crude?
Well, so yeah, typically there are benchmarks. There are international benchmarks for pricing. But what we have been saying is that there are instances where we are paying a premium above those benchmarks. And in some instances, we feel why would it be cheaper to bring in products from Brazil, for example, or from America, compared to what you are getting here? It doesn't make a lot of sense that you're paying more for what is near you. I would have assumed that it is more logical that when you bring products from outside, it's going to cost you more, because even if your cost of production or international pricing is the same, a barrel is a barrel anywhere in the world. So there's no difference in terms of the benchmarks for pricing.
Okay, so let's talk about this issue of the quality, which the NMDPRA alleged. And we saw there in the reports that our correspondent, Lou Phillips, went to do at your refinery, the tests. Tell us what it's supposed to be, what it is. I mean, from that report, it did indicate that perhaps even some products from other outlet stations have less quality and more impurity. But tell us about this issue and why it's even coming up at this time.
Okay, so I'll take it in 2 steps. So first and foremost, there is an ECOWAS declaration that was passed in 2020, which is supposed to help African nations to stop receiving substandard fuel. What sulfur does, it reduces the quality of air and brings a lot of carbon emissions, reducing the quality of life, if you like. So ECOWAS came up with a declaration that said, give up until 2025, local refineries, and this means any refinery within the West African region, is allowed to produce at higher levels of sulfur, given that they have time to make the investment to desulfurize and meet the specification of what is called parts per mil of sulfur, which is parts per million. And the idea is that by the end of this year or beginning of 2025, all these refineries are supposed to have complied to what is called 50 ppm, which is parts per mil. Now, at the same time, imports from other regions of the world were limited to that 50 ppm, because the idea is you're importing substandard products into the region. So that came into effect. And it's not something that was designed or conceived or even by any stretch of imagination driven by the Dangote Group. This was something that the Economic Community of West African States came together and decided to say, this is the limit that we want to accept. In addition to that, just this year, you can go and check it, Brussels and Netherlands and Belgium both stopped even transition of high sulfur product through their tanks, meaning that they don't want the product to even come into their tanks or into their region, even if it is meant for export to other regions. This is largely because the sulfur has an effect on, on the environment. And it also has some effect on, you know, the quality of the equipment itself, or what happens to your equipment. The second thing I would like to say on this quality issue is that during the visit of the Honorable Speaker and other ranking members of the House, we didn't even know. On the way to the refinery, they stopped by and they picked samples of product from petrol stations, because the only way you can be sure of the quality of what you are getting is to take it at the consumption point. And what did they see? I think you were playing the numbers just a few seconds. 2,600 in one station and 1,800 in another. The second issue was also that of flashpoint. And the flashpoint is also an issue because it's something that can affect your engine, because it actually increases the combustibility or the flammability of the product, and meaning that it's also a safety hazard. It's something that can actually affect, you can actually have a fire. Back in the day, we used to have a lot of issues with kerosene issues. Some of it is actually the reason is because of the flash point, a contaminated product that has a low flash. Now, a test was also done on our own product, and all the parameters are actually above what you'll expect. All the parameters are on point. It's true, when we started production, the sulfur content was a little higher. And that is because refinery is a very complex operation. And when you start, you are commissioning one equipment after the other. Until you finish that process, there will be certain things that will be not on point. But in fact, our commissioning is one of the best and the fastest in the world in terms of speed of commissioning.
So now that you had the lawmakers there, carried out the tests, are you in communication with the NMDPRA? Have you shared the result of the test with them so we can clear the air on this allegation?
Yes, we are. And if you look at it today, your correspondent was there, and we're inviting the civil society organization and any Nigerian who's interested to visit. Our laboratory is one of the best you can find anywhere in the world. We have all the testing equipments, and we invite anybody to come and visit it. When you talk about the regulator, we have representation from the regulator on our site all the time, which is why we are very surprised to hear some of the comments, especially regarding level of completion of the refinery, given that all our operations are done in tandem with the regulators.
Okay, so do we say that's cleared, or you're still waiting for NMDPRA, do you understand, to retract? So because it does create perspective, in the mind of some Nigerians.
Yes, which is why we're trying to clear the air. And to clear the air is a very simple process. The regulator can take samples from our production. As we said earlier,
has the NMDPRA been there to take the samples?
The NMDPRA is always there. They are residents at the refinery. And we are inviting them to come and take new samples from our production and test it. There are reputable test companies, and we are also inviting other interested stakeholders to do the same. And you will find what I'm telling you, which is the fact that we are currently even at 32 ppm as we speak. And by the end of this month, we're going to 10 ppm. And 10 ppm, just for context, is the best diesel you can find anywhere in the world. There's a standard called the EN 590, which is a European standard, which is the highest standard of diesel you can find, or what is otherwise known as the ultra-low sulfur diesel. And that is what we are going to be producing.
Mm. So I think the latest conversation is one of monopoly, and you've said you're going to put a hold on your steel plan and all of that. But where does this come from? I mean, Dangote refinery has been in the works for a bit, and I believe you've been in touch with the regulators. As you said, the NMDPRA is right there. Where does the conversation around monopoly come out from?
Well, it's your guess is as good as mine. And it's quite sad that we're having this conversation because, first of all, we're not the only refinery in Nigeria. The government owns 4 refineries, And at the last time we checked, over 4 billion has been spent in the last couple of years trying to fix these refineries. In addition, there are some other private refineries. And when these other refineries started, nobody in Nigeria said, oh, XYZ is going to create a monopoly. There is nothing further from the truth, because if you look at it, we have made an investment, $20 billion. And let me just make this for emphasis sake. In my adult life, I have never seen an investment this size. And I challenge anybody, whether in Nigeria or even in other African countries, to show us where such an investment has gone into. Number one. Number two, like I said, there are other refineries, and there are investments that have been made financially in making sure these refineries work. So is it to say that the refineries are not going to work? Where is the monopoly coming from? Monopoly means that you are the only player. We are not the only player. There are other refineries. So how can it be that we are, being monopolistic? And nobody is saying that, people talk about monopoly and energy security. We talk about energy security. So does it mean that it is better to be importing products to ensure energy security rather than what you already have in the country? It doesn't make sense to me. And it doesn't make sense on many levels. Let me give you an example. When you talk about imports, you are importing products into the country on ships. And anytime we have less than 30 days out there, what you start to see is you start to see queues at the petrol stations because people take speculative positions. Now you have a refinery and you have a storage. How can that be, a way in a sense that you don't have energy security? So it means energy security is importing products and exporting crude. It simply doesn't make sense to us.
I know the other time we did talk about the stake of NNPC in the company, and Mr. Dangote did come out to clear the air. Perhaps you should also let us know the stake. And he did say that there's no incentive from any government in this project.
Well, you see, people talk about incentives in many, when it comes to Dangote Group. But there really has not been any special incentive. There are things that are available to Nigerians. And people talk about incentives, people talk about we didn't take anything from Nigeria. As a matter of fact, we challenge people to show proof where we have taken any special incentives. Because when you see these incentives, they are sectoral incentives in most cases, in other businesses. But if I'm talking specifically to the refinery, the refinery did not receive any incentive, any special incentive, I would say.
All right, so I think one curious question on the mind, and we have to end on this note because you're already got into the time on Sunrise Daily, is how will all of this affect the expectation of PMS supply from Dangote?
So for us, really, it's up to the authorities, it's up to the government. We are a private company, and we will start production of PMS by the beginning of, beginning of next month. And
that's August.
Yes, that's August. We will start in August, and then hopefully we'll see what direction we're going to take regarding the supply of PMS to the domestic market.
All right, I'm sure a lot of Nigerians will be looking forward to that because, as you said, anything happens, we see the queues. We still have queues even now. But thank you so much, Director, Group Chief Commercial Officer, Dangote Industries, and we wish you the very best.
Thank you very much.
All right, well, I did say it was going to be a different program today, and sorry, Sunrise Daily, guys, we have to keep it of your time. But let's see, I think they'll just do their closing hours. Thank you so much. We'll see you at Business Incorporated. I'm Ini John Mekwa.